Hey garden friends, this is late September and I wanted to take you through the Rose Alley Rose Garden that I created this year. I just started this spring and summer, and it has surpassed all my expectations. But I'm going to take you through, talk you through things that I want to change or will be adding to, what really wowed me, and some challenges I faced. But I would appreciate any ideas you may have and even opinions of what I'm thinking of doing and maybe why it would or would not work in your mind. I'm always looking for fresh ideas. So let's get rolling. I will share with you. I think I'll go down this one side and then we'll come up this side and we'll talk about what's happening now, what I'm going to change, and I probably said that already, and all of that. So let's just get going. And one thing I am absolutely thrilled with is this rose. This is the rose that I started from cuttings from a rose in front of my sister-in-law's house. She lives on my father-in-law's property, and this rose, it is ancient of days down there, and it blooms with no care. It's not on irrigation. Next door is a big walnut farm, so that maybe some irrigation from that gets to it, but it doesn't get pruned, it doesn't get fed, nothing, and it is the most stunning rose, and it blooms all summer long. Ooh, but it's got lots of thorns. Here's my Bosco Bell rose. I had another one in here. I had two in here. That one died, and that's why I put this here. But this one is putting on a massive new growth. We are already cooling down. You can see I had to wear my flannel shirt because it's barely 60 degrees out here, and it's already 11 o'clock. So a big cool down already, but that's one thing too that I'm just thrilled with is this rose. And I have a second one that started, and I have it up in front by my Eden rose. So that's a win-win. And can you see over here? Right over here is my Jupiter's beard. That has bloomed all summer long. This white rose here, this climbing rose, well, it's actually a ground cover rose, is going to come out. I didn't want it here, and I can place it somewhere else. So that's one thing that's moving. So another thing that it's going to change next year. I'm not going to have the Blackeyed Susans here. Now these are volunteers. They're beautiful. I will save the seeds from them and seed them elsewhere. So I will still have that beautiful pop of yellow in the gardens that is so easy for me. But I want to put more roses through here. And I have a couple ideas. One idea is to try some tree roses along here, and or a big stake with a climbing rose that I let climb up and then drape down. So I wanted some height with the roses. Since this is the rose garden, I was wanting to put a few more roses in here, and then everything else that I plant with it. I would like them to either be a little bit shorter than the roses. So of course these wouldn't work. Now, except for the phlox behind it, the lavender phlox I probably will leave. It is super easy, a great performer here, and I think it's unobtrusive enough and airy enough that it won't encroach upon the roses blooming. And also, another thing I want to put in here is maybe a few more things that will give me spring color along with the iris, but I'm not certain. I have more iris. I'm still digging and dividing. If you saw recently, I did a video collaboration with Janie at Dig, Plant, Water, Repeat, and I took some of the irises that I dug and divided, and I still have more in this area to dig up and divide, and some other colors I want to place in here, because in spring this is just gorgeous. Late spring, early summer. Not really late spring. So over here, these two roses have been so wonderful this summer. Let me move it down there. Now, Quicksilver up here, it's going over now, but this thing has, since when it started blooming, it took it a while. It bloomed and bloomed and bloomed, and now, it's fading away. Let me see if I had any more buds coming up. I don't see any right now, but that's okay. That's okay. It can rest until next year. But I was thrilled. This is the first year I planted it. I planted it this spring, along with, this is a quicksilver over here too, huh? Oh yeah, it has new growth. It may bloom if I get a long enough spring. Over here is my Gertrude Jekyll, which it's already climbed up to here. I don't think you can see how far up, but it's almost as tall as I am on this arbor, and it has bloomed and bloomed and bloomed so pretty. This is the Morning Glory that climbed up over the top and has now gone to seed. That was so pretty. It was the blue and white. Was it the Milky? No, it wasn't Milky Way. I'll have to remember what that was, because it was just so much fun. And the blooms were massive. They were as big as my hand. Excuse me as I get in front. Now along here I have tons and tons of iris. And these will be dug up and divided. And you notice I didn't trim any of the leaves back when, it just wasn't necessary. So many other things were taking your attention that you didn't even notice them, which was great. But I need to dig them up, divide them, replant. I will put a few more colors in here, like I said before, from above in the front entrance garden. And it just will be gorgeous this spring, or this next spring. But along here is where I was thinking of adding a tree rose, or what I explained to you about. Back there is my nearly wild rose. That does beautifully. I gave it a really hard chop because it was laying too close to the ground. It had gotten smashed from the snow last winter, it was an unusually heavy snow. We got up to 9 feet, so it was a little bit much. That normally that rose does not get just smashed to the ground like that. So it'll come back from where I pruned it back from and just do beautifully next year, I hope. I doubt we'll get that much snow this year, but you never know. I'm trying not to trample on anything over here. Now these Helleniums have just been a delight, but they're so tall. I didn't know they'd get this tall. And maybe they don't usually, but this bed starts getting shade early in the season. But they're blocking my Plum Perfect rose that I put in here next to Love Song. This, I didn't get any blooms yet. It does have buds on it right now, but I had transplanted it this summer in here. It kind of went into shock, which you can expect. And now it's coming up. But because of the way the sun's hitting this bed this time of year, these are blocking the sun that it really needs to thrive. So next year, I will, well, actually this fall, as soon as they're done blooming, I can't stand the thought of missing any of these. Look at things, it's loaded with blossoms. I am going to move this. Right now I'm just going to enjoy it, and I may put a stake over here and pull it back and tie it to it, and that way that can still get the sun. But if you've ever tried Helleniums, I'm going to look for more. I don't remember, I think I got this at Annie's Annual, and yeah, I absolutely love it, but it's going to have to go somewhere else. Oh, it looks like some of the sun is going to come out for a little bit. Now this is my Jubilee Celebration rose. And let me see, let me back you up a little bit so you can really see it all. Now I can't see in my video screen saver. Yeah, Jubilee Celebration. This is a David Austin rose, and it is one of my favorites because, for me, a few aphids there, it just blooms nonstop. Look at these massive, gorgeous blooms. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buds on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4 over on this, and then there's a bunch back here. Doing beautiful. And it got really smashed by the snow this year too, and I cut it back, and now it's finally really fleshing out. It didn't put on as many blooms through this summer, but we had a cool summer for us, and we got a late start. So that is why it's not performing till now, but it usually is like this all summer long. So my favorite, I was going to try to dig it up and move it further back, but it is so deeply rooted that I just left it. I tried and it didn't work, and so here it's going to stay. Stay, stay, stay. This plant has been just so amazing to me this summer. I've loved it. I love the gray foliage. It does get little purple flowers, but that's not the star of this plant. This plant, it's the little delicate foliage. This is a hardy geranium, Geranium Harveyi. And it just, I don't know, I love it spilling onto the path here. And the gray foliage just is a great offset for other things. And yeah, I just really, really have loved it here. So I think it makes a great understory for like your roses, hides their, what some people call their knobby knees when you can get a lot of bare canes at the base. But yeah, I got this at Annie's Annuals, and I'm sure you can order it online if you would like to, but it starts out in a little 4-inch pot, and just look how it just went. It is fairly large, so it's just a beautiful plant. Yeah, you see this tub? This is one of them that was up on the back deck that I had planted with petunias, wave petunias. The petunias are getting done. It looks like they're getting attacked by something that's eating them, probably a caterpillar or something. But that's okay. I'm ready to pull them out, cut them back, and then put in maybe some pansies or violas. The elephant ears, these ones didn't get very big. The one over there, and I can take you to see that in a minute, got really big. So I don't know if it was the size of the container. I'm new with elephant ears. But I got this package of them. I think there was 9 in a package at Costco last winter. And I just planted them all up all over the place. And I don't remember what the package said as far as how big they would get. I know there's different sizes of them, but that was on my back deck. I had too much clutter on my deck. This was kind of an empty spot, so I just plopped this in there for some color. And now, as I said, the petunias are about done, but the elephant ears are continuing. I'm wondering if I put this in my greenhouse, if I could overwinter those in the container, but I don't even know if I have space for that. We'll see. We'll see what I experiment with. I know I can dig them up and save them in the container in the basement. I have to put them inside something because one year I overwintered one and I had animals eat it. So I know critters like to eat them. I am so sorry for the construction noise. This is what I've been telling you about in my videos, where it's just constant and we can't get away from it. And I'm just tired of trying to work around it. So I hope it's not too overly annoying. These elephant ears, I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to show you how big it is. Those other ones are like this big, and look how big these are. These are massive. This is what I was going for with them. So I think it's just maybe the size of the container, and maybe because I have 2 in there instead of just 1. This is Bear's Breach right here. Yeah, this overwintered. I was shocked. I thought it was dead, and that's why I went ahead and put the elephant ears in here. But this spot gets a lot of shade, a little dappled sun, so I think the elephant ears really like that, because these leaves here didn't get scorched when others did get a little scorched in some of the on some of the hotter days that we experienced this summer. Let's go back up this side. This is where the steps from my back deck come down, and I have the one climbing rose here that we dug up from my grandparents' farmyard when we had to sell their house. And it blooms really well. I don't know what it is. My grandmother always said it was a blaze rose, but it doesn't have all the attributes I'm used to in the old blaze roses, but it still is beautiful. It blooms prolifically through the summer. It's fading now. We are in late September, but as long as we have frost-free weather, I think it will continue to bloom. As long as it's just, if we get up to the 70s in the day. We're getting down into the 40s at night, so you can't never tell for sure when it gets that cool. So my Warsaw Nike, I never did deadhead it, trim it back this year from when it gave its big bloom. Usually after the first big bloom, I can trim it back, just shear it back a little bit and get all the deadhead it all, and it will rebloom. But this year we just had too short of a season, too cool of a season. So here is my Crown Princess Margareta Rose. It has done beautifully. Now this is not, I did not buy this as a climber, but you can see it climbed all the way up there. That's probably 10 feet and bloomed beautifully. I got to deadhead it. It might have a little bit of new growth on it where I could continue to get blooms. but I'm not too worried about it. It's time where I need to start digging up and moving things. And many times, like with roses, let me put this down, they're still blooming when I need to move them. They will not go dormant, usually, before we get our first frost. So, and a hard freeze. That's just the way it is here in the mountains. We will go from 80 degrees one day to it freezes overnight and everything gets frozen. And nothing is dormant yet. Last year even, we got a heavy snow before everything was dormant, and it caused a lot of damage, but that's just how it is here. Now down here is, I think that's Super Dorothy, that climbing rose right down there, and it has these small little flowers. It's supposed to be super abundant in blooming, and I'm hoping, I have high hopes for it. This year, it didn't grow really quick like many of the others, but some roses take a little while to get adapted to their area. I don't think it gets too much shade. I think it gets plenty of sun, but I give things at least 3 years to see how they're going to do, and then if I need to, I will move it and put a rose here that maybe will do better. And I could also now, I'm going to turn you here. I know I keep changing my thoughts, and I was going to go back up this side. That just fell off my deck earlier with a bamboo in it. I need to pick that up. Looks like it really took a beating. It's all bent. Anyways, this rose over here is Albertine. And it is already to the top of this arbor. And let me see if I can show you where it's hanging out over there. And I will tie that up. But I am super thrilled. This will be the first blooming rose of next spring. I've had this before and I lost it. It died when I had moved away, and we were gone for a year, so nothing here got watered, etc., and it just died. So that being said, it was a gorgeous, gorgeous pink rose. It is a one-time blooming rambler, but it blooms for several weeks. In the spring, as I said, a first blooming rose, and then the other roses on here, which is a pretty and pink Eden. I'm trying to slowly move my camera around here for you. Let me move this down. So at the base, here's a pretty and pink Eden, and it's throwing out some beautiful growth here. I planted it in a cage. I made this cage down here. I don't know if you can see it, but I made it with the hardware cloth. And I may make some more for my other roses that are going to go into the ground. I think it worked well. It's just they're a pain to make. So over on this side, over here is my Zephyrine drone, however you pronounce that, rose, climbing up this trellis we made. Now I didn't show you how we made it, but it was super easy. You see this cattle panel that we had in our porch railing? Well, all we did was cut pieces that were 5 squares wide, 10 or 11 feet high, maybe longer, probably longer, because these come in 15 or 16 foot lengths. But then I secured it at the bottom with 2 pieces of short rebar that I could nail into the ground. And then I wove the Zephyrine Rose up on it. I will train it, I should say prune it judiciously this coming fall or soon. Right now it's still blooming. This rose suffers horribly from powdery mildew, right, usually. I gave it the milk spray, and I shared that video with you, where I sprayed it with milk. I wasn't happy with that because I think the ratio of milk to water was too high, and maybe if I'd taken it down, because it left a residue, an ugly residue on it, that to me rivaled the powdery mildew. But I'm trying a product now that's made with rosemary and clove oil that is a systemic, and it kills the fungus, but it doesn't harm good bugs. So it's a win-win so far. I'm very pleased with it. And so I'm happy that is working, and it not only works for fungus, but pests too. And as I said, I'm very pleased. And I have lost no bees whatsoever, and I've been using it since July, August. So that's a win in my book. So down below, the bed below This is my Patricia. On this side, here's a whole nother selection of iris that I didn't do anything with. I didn't trim them back and whatever. They're just now starting to brown. These are a repeat color of those on the other side of the path that I said I was going to thin. And thinking about it, maybe I'll just pull the ones over on the other side out and make room for my new colors, or colors from up front, like more pinks. And that will be a win because, like I said, I already have these here and I want more colors. So this would be a perfect spot to keep these. In the interim, I have foxgloves that reseeded themselves in here well and are going to bloom probably next spring. I have down here is a boxwood I started from a cutting. I do have a video on that. I should do another one. I should make some more because I really love the boxwoods lining things. It kind of tidies up areas. Here is this one. This rose here is rural England. I never can say that well, but it's already starting to climb up the arbor. So all my roses that I got this last spring, I got them from Antique Rose Emporium. I got them from Heirloom Roses. They are all just doing so well, and I'm so happy with them. As I said at the beginning, so many things did so much better than I even anticipated, which, you know, life doesn't always happen that way. So sometimes when you have a win, you really have to celebrate it. So the cat's pajamas is starting to bloom again. It's not as profuse as it was in the spring. This plant is what made me fall in love with Nepeta. Now this is a proven winner selection and I have nothing but praise for it. I have enjoyed this in my garden so well. I went and bought some Cat's Meow. I have an entire video on Nepeta and the different ones I have. And yeah, if you find it, I would nab it. It is just a die-hard plant that just performs and fills in areas that may be tough. It's drought tolerant. It just performed all summer long, and I can't say enough good stuff about it. So cat's pajamas. Now the Cat's Meow I got, I was kind of at first a little disappointed with it, but I totally changed my mind. It has been a prolific bloomer too. It's bigger, but it has performed well once it got going. I just needed to give it that chance to get a start, you know. But I even bought another one for my garden in the Secret Cottage Garden. So that's how much I loved it. So let's move on up. So I have a couple of roses staged here. This is Sexy Rexy. I was thinking of putting it over here. And then down here, you can see the top of the pot. That is Awakening. That is a sport of New Dawn. It is supposed to perform even better than New Dawn. So I was debating putting it next to this arbor right here. I do have a Jackmanii clematis there, so I'd have to put it back a little ways, but I think that would make a good companion to rural England. I have two roses, mostly, on all these arbors, so I really get some blooming, heavy blooming from them. And there's plenty of space. So here is, this right here, this rose, I know I'm not getting the complete thing because I'm not far enough back. This is Dreamweaver. Now, it doesn't climb as high as Zephyrine, but it is a prolific bloomer all summer long, and I'm training it on the same kind of trellis. You can actually see more of the trellis here as the one that over there is Zephyrine. And I have considered putting a third one here to climb up. And maybe that would be a good spot for another Albertine. But you see this barrel here, it gets flooded from the gutter above. I've got to get that gutter fixed. There's an Agastaki or Agastache, however people pronounce it. I need to put it in a different spot. I don't think it is hot enough there, or my climate may not just be hot enough. Back there is my Abraham Darby rose. It's in a container. I need to move it out of there. It gets too much shade. And I think I'm going to put it in the ground. I'll make a cage for it or something and go ahead and get it in the ground so it can just do. That was one of my favorite David Austin roses until I got Jubilee Celebration. And I think I prefer my Jubilee Celebration only because the coloration is similar, but the Jubilee Celebration blooms much more frequently. so I get a lot more blooms on it. And who knows, maybe it's location. If I planted my Abraham Darby next to my Celebration, maybe it would bloom more. The Belle of Walking Clematis. This thing has been a knockout on this arbor. Now, it's been planted here for a few years, but it was with the climbing on the same obelisk as the Dreamweaver. But this year, it's just taken off over this arbor, and I'm letting it. It's just been so gorgeous. Now, this here is going to change. Let me get you moved around. The sun is going in and out, so sorry if it takes my camera a minute to adjust. So this is another barrel. This one, I'm sorry, this one has rotted out. So now my trumpet vine is coming up from the soil beneath, and I didn't want that. I wanted to keep it contained in this barrel. But also, I want to put this somewhere else. I'm thinking of locating this in the back secret cottage garden in a different container that doesn't have any holes in it. So that is an option. And I need to put a new barrel here. I'm thinking of putting a climbing rose to go up and over. Let me move you this direction. Up and over this porch, side porch opening. So you see that? And then on this other side, where I have my Bosco Bell Rose, let me set you down. The Bosco Bell Rose is in that container back there that's ugly. It wasn't meant to be there that long. I just haven't gotten to it. So I'm going to get 2 half wine barrels, one for the side where the trumpet vine is and one for this side, and put climbing roses and then train them up and over this opening to the porch. And so that's the plan for that. Everything's going to take time, and that's just how it is. I work as I get the chance, and I have these ideas, and I slowly bring them to fruition. So I think that is all of my rose garden tour and or ideas. Now here's the roadside part. I want to get as back as far as I can. You can see that right now this is needing cleanup. My Roseanne geranium there, just gorgeous. I love that thing. It blooms nonstop. I may, divide either this one or the one down by the studio cottage, Primrose Cottage, and put some on the other side over there where those roses there next to the porch. This rose, I think I mentioned it already, I am going to remove. I already tried to remove it. This was the piece that was left, and I just went ahead and let it go. So I don't want it here. I have plenty of this, so I can dig that up and give it to somebody. So these asters are monsters. I've got them here and then on down there. And these ones up here are a division of the ones down there. So, I mean, that one also there, it's a stellar plant. This is Tiny Monster. It has done well right here by the roadside, and I think it has behaved itself because it gets little water here, but it still blooms. It blooms and blooms and blooms. Along the edge, I just take my weed eater and trim it up so it's not too out in the road. And it just keeps on performing. Now, when I had it with my roses up in the entrance garden, it swamped them. It got too big. Now, that phlox is almost done. I need to deadhead it. And if we get along enough fall warmth, it will rebloom. So here's these need to be cut back. That's my crocosmias. Here comes a car. And from the back side, you can still see the Helleniums. I've got a few of my Monarda still blooming in there. Not much. Some I need to deadhead. I already took the seeds from most of the Delphiniums. I left that one to reseed, hopefully in place. I've not had much success with them reseeding in place. But I showed this in my seed collecting. That's the Feverfew, the double. I need to deadhead that. That will go to seed and come up everywhere, and I just edit it out as I need to. And this is Rose Campion. I, chop this back in half after the first flush of blooms, and then it always puts out more for me. This thing's coming out right here. And I say that so emphatically because it has just been a monster. And I didn't know exactly what I knew it was a catmint, but it might be even catnip. And I don't want it to spread. So I'm going to chop it back, dig it up. It did have pretty blooms on it though. See, you can see these blooms right, whoops, I'm sorry, I got caught. Pretty little blooms. But I mean, it's gotten 6 feet tall. And I didn't want that there. I have other things I wanted to bloom. So down here is some salvia I started from seed. There's a pot I need to remove. And other things. And here's the backside of my elephant ears. And that little Japanese maple has done so beautiful in that barrel. But I've been putting some more of my iris down here. This is good and sandy. Next to my lilacs that I started from suckers. One is a double, not a double, but it has a stripe. It's called Sensation, I think so. And then the other one, I think, is a dark purple. I'll see when they bloom. I've forgotten. I need to keep better records. But all of this needs to be cleaned up. And that's just the reality of it. That is a gourd that replanted itself. Now this log here was hit by the guys there. It was up against my raised bed there. And they pulled over and got a little too close and hit it. And obviously didn't put it back. Oh, I was going to show you. There's my other Roseanne geranium next to the Primrose Cottage. It just does beautiful everywhere, and it blooms like that all summer long. So here's a good view of the rose garden on this side. So that, my friends, is the rose garden here in late September. Some of the changes I'm going to make, things I thought that worked well, and how pleased I am with how it turned out for the first season. For it to just be started this spring to where it's at now, I am thrilled with how Albertine has gotten so high, how the others are climbing. I just know it's going to get better and better. And give it 2 more years, and I'm sure, unless something dramatic happens here, it is going to be outstanding. And I'm only going to add more roses there. I talked about maybe adding tree roses and or doing a little something fancy with some climbing roses on posts. It's just going to be gorgeous. Other things that do well, the phlox do well there. So I think I'm going to put more phlox. Proven Winners has some luminary series. I think they're coming out, I shouldn't say think, I've read they are coming out with a new bubblegum pink colored one with a dark pink eye that I'm going to try to get this next summer. And I think that would be beautiful in there as well. And what I love about it is they're a later blooming. So when other things are going over, that will be coming into bloom. And the one I have in front, I can't remember the name of it. I trimmed it back after the first bloom and it refleshed really well. So I was really pleased with that. And it's not supposed to be quite as tall as regular garden phlox, be a more medium height. So that's going to be perfect in there. So I also have white phlox that I think would do well in there. And I wanted to try and start some more of the delphiniums. I would like the dark blue ones. Those bloom earlier in the season, but they're really dramatic. The blooms are really pretty. So that's some ideas for that area. As far as bulbs, I have to put bulbs in containers because the gophers eat them so very badly. So I don't usually do tulips. Plus tulips always get smashed from the late snows we get. Daffodils, on the other hand, they do really well. So we'll see. We'll see what I do. There was a mix I wanted so badly and I waited too long and it sold out. But that's the way it goes when you hesitate. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. And thank you for coming along with the ride this summer, all my gardens. I don't know, I probably would take you along on some cleanup. And as I put in new areas for next year, it's already that time. I have to think about that and get things ready. Like I said, last year we had our first big snow, 1st of November. We got over a foot. It froze in place and never went away. So I was digging through a foot of snow, icy snow, to plant my bulbs. So I hope I don't have to do that this year. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.